There are many elegant, complex, often cruel initiation ceremonies which a whole host of cultures have. Ours is not quite so clear.
So it's hard to define, like, hey, what do we do? What does it mean to be a man in this sort of multicultural, world that we live in? And what kind of rite of passage do we create?
If I were to define what a rite of passage is, it's shedding of those layers and the rediscovery of, oh, this is who I really am.
Josiah and I are two friends that decided to create Highway Walkers Media in order to start a conversation about the accessibility of adventure. Our first film followed us from Iowa to Oregon on a 2,000-mile hitchhiking journey to find if hitchhiking was still alive and well. That was an incredible experience, but this new adventure is going to require us to dig much, much deeper. We're looking for the American rite of passage and what it means to be an adult. As we live in a society with an ever-increasing emphasis on individuality, we want to know if America has a rite of passage for all of us.
I want to make a movie about becoming an adult because it's something that I'm dealing with now. It's something that I see our culture dealing with a lot. It's something that I see people in my generation dealing with constantly, and I think that it's something that anyone who's ever existed has dealt with and has thought about and has asked themselves, am I an adult now?
I think I missed out on a formal rite of passage. I mean, I wish that some group of elders had taken me out into the woods and shown me what it meant to be an adult, but that just didn't happen.
I think it's exciting to ask the question officially and to be asking myself that question. I think it's exciting to have a platform to which I'm going to sit down and really consider this for a little while and to think about it and spend some serious time asking myself if I'm an adult and if I ever will be one.
It's a hard question to ask, and it's definitely one that you hope you have this definitive answer to, but I don't know. I think I'm an adult.
So the question is, do I feel like an adult? And the short answer is yes.
Exactly.
Yes. In a lot of ways, I feel older than Methuselah.
I don't really feel like an adult.
Only part of the time.
Do you feel like an adult?
No.
Yeah. It's scary sometimes.
I still don't really feel like a grown-up.
I only feel like an adult when I have sex or pay bills.
Like walking over hot coals.
It's your badge of honor.
Cultural ritual, or it can be a life-changing event.
Things that lead you to something else.
To walk that fine line between childish and childlike.
Just the moment where you have made your transition.
It really depends on how you want to define yourself as an adult.
My rite of passage was my marriage.
I know lots of people who are married who aren't grown up.
Two rites of passage that I had. One was getting a driver's license, and when I brought my first child home from the hospital.
My rite of passage was coming out to my parents and my friends.
It was discovering Bob Dylan.
Lost my virginity when I was 15.
I moved to America when I was 19.
Oh no, I don't feel like I had a rite of passage, but I feel like it's okay.
We met in New York City to interview Dr. Lionel Tiger, a professor of anthropology at Rutgers University.
My name is Lionel Tiger. I'm described by the police as an anthropologist.
Did you ever have a rite of passage?
I guess it was a wrong of passage in the sense that the closest that I would have to it was my bar mitzvah, which I took to be a rite of passage because it was so extremely boring. It's not difficult like going out in the wilderness for 40 days and living off hunting and gathering whatever.
Does our culture have anything like a universal rite of passage?
The most likely candidate is a driver's test. It would be very hard to say there's a uniform rite of passage. I suppose losing one's virginity, both for a male and a female, is fairly clear-cut. During the 60s and 70s, a rite of passage was taking certain drugs. And in a way, the worse they were, the better. There are others that are not as much rites of passage as features of life. Getting married, for example, it's fairly clear-cut. It has endless consequences. Becoming a parent, again, probably even more consequential because suddenly you're dealing with a completely unthinking and selfish creature who is, however, remarkably charming. So it's not a rite of passage, it's a rite of accomplishment. That's very different. Most human societies, you didn't have to accomplish anything to become a man. You simply had to put the time in and, in some cases, endure the pain. We have somehow to come to terms with these issues, or we just have to expect a lot of noise in the system. The way when we got Prius cars that make no noise, people said, well, we've got to put some noise back in so people will know that the car's coming. Maybe we have to put some noise back in the system.
Josiah and I are here in Times Square, New York, to find out if people feel like they are adults. There's no one here. That's not true.
Do you feel like an adult?
Absolutely not.
It depends, like, where I am, what I'm doing.
Neva?
Yeah.
Do you feel like an adult?
Yeah, now. Some of the time.
Yes, more or less.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
I think so. I'm 43 years old, right?
Yes.
Not yet. Well, for some things I do, but for others, not really.
I'm the joke man.
All right, joke man. Do you feel like an adult?
No.
Well, no. I guess I am an adult, but I don't feel like one.
A moment in your life that you thought, now I'm an adult.
Yeah.
You know, you could say it's the first time you drank, you say it's the first time you had sex, would probably be, you know, the defining moment that changed everything for me, you know?
Yeah, so
of
for
course.
you would say
sex.
First time, yeah.
Absolutely. First time I had sex.
The birth of my child.
Yeah?
I think with moving out and getting my own place.
Okay.
And then realizing there was stuff I had to pay and I couldn't rely on other people anymore.
I'm still looking for it.
I guess, you know, turning 18, graduating from high school, from college, graduation is kind of the symbolistic rite of passage, I suppose.
Have you done all those?
Yeah.
And you don't feel like an adult?
No.
You know, everyone says, oh, I wish I could go back to the way it was. It's bull. You gotta grow up, get a family.
I want to see the skateboard again. Can you just show the camera? That's fancy.
No, I mean, I can do things by myself.
Right.
Obviously, I've been living alone for 2 years now, and my decision is that I do feel like an adult.
All right, so that's a wrap in New York City. Finishing up the interview with Lionel Tiger. Onward back to Buffalo to get the van, and then road trip central. Who knows where we'll go.
Love you too. What do I think it means to be an adult? I think it has to do with responsibility.
I think being an adult means standing up for what you believe in. I think being an adult is the ability to laugh at yourself. And I think being an adult is the understanding that you don't know everything, and you never will know everything.
when I was a kid and I did something wrong, like broke a lamp or whatever, I would feel guilty about it. But now that I'm an adult, if I do something wrong, like break a lamp, I just buy a new lamp. Like, I'm responsible for the situation. Like, I'm responsible in my marriage, I'm responsible for my schooling and my family and my friends, I'm responsible to these things. And so I think it has to do with where your responsibilities lie.
Lionel gave us an insight into what the universal American rite of passage might be. And people we interviewed in Times Square confirmed that this is a question that needs asking. But what exactly is a traditional rite of passage?
Historically, rites of passage have been the universal tool for signifying the transition from one status to another. Ancient cultures had unique rites that ushered children into adulthood.
Traditionally, rites of passage are broken down into 3 stages: separation, transition, and reincorporation. Separation is the removal from the group. Transition is the change or event taking place, and reincorporation is the return to that group.
We've heard that the drunken stupor is an American rite of passage for many young men and women. So Josiah and I are about to partake in this supposed cultural rite of passage.
Think you're gonna feel more like a man tomorrow?
No, I think I'm going to feel bad tomorrow. Somehow in the future make me feel more like a man? No. But maybe some sort of hard lesson will come out of all of this.
Good morning. I don't feel good about myself.
So, I'm gonna steal from Lionel Tiger, who said a lot of the things we do aren't rites of passage anymore. They're rites of achievement. And maybe this was an achievement at best. I enjoy drinking beer, but getting drunk as a rite of passage didn't do it for me.
We did it. And I don't feel like more of a man. So, the search continues.
Excuse me.
So we're here at the world's biggest rocking chair, and I'm kind of sick and my head hurts and my eyes ache, and I dropped my sunglasses in the bathroom and they broke. So I bought these new ones, and Josiah seems to think that there's something funny with them when I think they're perfectly practical.
Something in me's burning, gotta push it out, push it out, push it out. So much frustration. If you live all your baggage, you will likely throw it away. But you can't know beauty if you don't know pain. You gotta feel it all, feel it all, feel it all. There's your meditation.
If there was a rite of passage that everybody needed to go through to become an adult, what do you think that would be? What would that look like?
What do you mean, like a native tribe where you gotta go kill a water buffalo? Yeah, I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Do you feel like an adult?
Yes.
Yeah, what does that mean to you?
It means you're mature enough to make decisions that are responsible.
Do you feel like an adult?
Sometimes maybe.
When do you feel like an adult?
In the bedroom with my wife. And I'm still a big kid.
Yeah.
Big kid.
Yeah, I'd say so.
What does that mean to you?
I don't know, just doing things on your own probably. I turned 18.
Now you're just turning 18 was kind of your rite of passage?
Yeah.
But being a dad, when I go home, when I watch my son and my daughter actually being born and watching them come out.
I got kicked out of my house when I was 17 and went out and got a job, and 20 now and I'm married and I feel like an adult. I don't know.
And so if you had a rite of passage that everybody had to go through before they were an adult, what would that be?
Having sex.
Rite of passage would be join the military and actually see what our boys and girls do. That would be being a man or a woman. Gay, straight, it doesn't matter. I don't care, but that personal opinion.
What does it mean to be an adult?
To
you?
To me, you got freedom, you can do whatever you want, hang out with your friends. I turned 21, so that opened my eyes a little bit.
defeated because I haven't found out any like real great answers yet, and I'm feeling a little bit deflated because of that.
I think we're learning that the American rite of passage isn't a single event, and so we are in the middle of a process. And we're hoping that something good comes at the end.
Or when we ask people the question like, hey, what's an adult? Do you feel like an adult? It's kind of like, well, I look like one. Yeah, and maybe that's the thing, like maybe you survive long enough and you win. You survive long enough and like you're an adult. It's all very metaphorical and in kind of in the worst way, because I expect to find something that blows my mind, something that I've never thought about before and will change the way I think and feel about what it means to be an adult. But that just hasn't happened yet.
So it's been a bit like stumbling around in the dark, because when it's just you and when it's just you thinking that you've got to figure this out on your own, it's hard. It's a hard thing. Some guidance on this trip would be a real great thing. I think that's what I'm looking for. Some guidance. Anyone? Not yet.
My name's Dustin Dedon. I'm 20 years old. I'm exploring the country right now. There's a lot more going on than Youngstown, Ohio. You know, I figure I better go out and check it out. Started hitchhiking 2 days ago, made about 900 miles so far. I'm on my way to the Rainbow Village. I heard about it in Savannah, Georgia. My understanding of it, it's kind of like a Woodstock sort of deal. I live on my own, I pay my own bills, I pay my taxes. I'm still learning, I'm a growing adult. I think everyone should be forced out of the nest to go explore. They'll find everything they need to find out there. What have I learned? I've learned I'm never gonna know enough. Never.
Daryl and I found ourselves on this beautiful beach, but one problem, we didn't have any firewood. Firewood! Ah!
So we have this can of Bush's baked beans. Now the key to opening a can of baked beans while camping is to have a can opener. But unfortunately, we don't have that luxury. That's success. That's an open can of baked beans. That's an open can of baked beans, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm only here to document the event.
That's probably the worst possible way to wake up in the morning.
You see those little dots? Each of those dots represents a spider.
And they're all over our stuff, man. I'm not ashamed to not be in the tent right now. So, I hit her with the stick. Yikes, okay. And then she just sprinted towards me. And it's not dead! and waves of babies came off of her.
How does that make you feel?
Ah, they're all over the stick! I was a little scared.
This is the test that we've just ultimately completely failed. Poor thing.
Are you on her side?
There really are spiders everywhere.
I can't imagine a situation that could have been any more terrifying unless there was like a bear involved.
Parking lot in Tulsa, there's this giant spider again. I'm going to grab the shirt and fling it.
Okay, let me not be where you're flinging.
Did you see it just go flying up? There it is! After checking our van for any more eight-legged hitchhikers, we drove to meet with Brett McKay, who along with his wife owns and operates artofmanliness.com. They were kind enough to invite us to their home. We talked with Brett in his study.
Jack London, the guy was manly.
My name is Brett McKay. I am the founder and editor-in-chief of the artofmanliness.com. The site started in 2008. Actually, the idea of it started in 2007. I was a second-year law student, And I was in Borders one night, the bookstore, just kind of killing time and looking at the men's magazines, browsing them, and I just had this realization that like these all aren't that great. Like they didn't like resonate with me as a man.
The whole mytho-poetic movement, that was a big source of what honor means, the craftsman ethos.
I said, you know what? I'm going to start the men's magazine that I want to read. Our ideal of masculinity that we're trying to promote is a very classical idea of manliness. And what's interesting is this idea of manliness and manhood was with us until about the early part of the 20th century, where it changed. And if you were to ask an ancient Greek or an ancient Roman, even if you asked someone living at Teddy Roosevelt's time, a little over 100 years ago, they would tell you that manliness meant being a man of virtue, honor, courage, being a person who actually made a contribution to society. So there's this idea in sociology that there's a cycle or pattern with how each generation has their own character, right? And there's this idea that there's a repeating cycle you see throughout history. And typically what happens is the younger generation rebels against their parents' generation, and they make friends with their grandparents' generation. They sort of embrace the values and the ideals of their grandparents as opposed to their parents' generation. Like guys are like growing out the facial hair, growing out mustaches, they're wearing the plaid shirt, like looking like an 1890s lumberjack. Right, yeah, we're all wearing plaid here. And they're all trying to like harken back to this idea of robust, rugged masculinity.
I'd recommend checking out. So I was talking about like the whole idea of generation cycles,
awesome.
Vintage, handyman guides. This was a really popular book back in the 19th century. Just like general facts, like what does the Secretary of the Treasury do?
Like so many previous cultures had a rite of passage and we don't. If you could kind of create one that would create those men that you are kind of defining,
what would you do?
What would that be?
That's a really good question, and I don't know, because it's hard to define. Like, hey, what do we do? What does it mean to be a man in this sort of multicultural world that we live in, and what kind of rite of passage do we create with this sort of vague, ambiguous definition of manhood that we have today? Oh, that's a tough question, and I don't have the answer to it. Yeah, a rite of passage would be technically a ritual, right, that you go through, and for a while in our culture, I guess saying like getting your first car was like a rite of passage, but if you think about it, it's actually a rite of achievement. I mean, I guess some people like make it a ritual, turn it into a sort of an informal ritual, right? A dad will take their son to the bar and get him drunk, when he turns 21. Sort of a way to prove your masculinity by ingesting this poison, right? Yeah. If you can hold your liquor, then you're a man. Or even like, sex, like that's another, is it a ritual or is it like a rite of achievement? And I guess it'd be like a rite of achievement, right?
Yeah, I don't know that rite of passage would fit with that.
Yeah, you have your first sexual encounter and then it's an achievement, right? It's a notch on the buckle.
Yeah.
So you start off in youth, and if you're industrious as a young man, you'll grow up to success and honored age. But if you become lazy, you're going to become dispassionate, then you'll become a total wreck.
Brett made us realize that we've been out of focus. A rite of passage can't happen individually, but instead needs a community.
You need a brotherhood. I think that's one of the things a lot of men are lacking today. Find a group of guys who can help you become the man you want to be.
Brett McKay was kind enough to give us a bunch of MREs, which are meals ready to eat. And for example, we have cheese tortellini and marinara sauce. These MREs end up looking like this in this pouch. I don't know exactly what you'd call this. A stupid idea, maybe.
There's one that likes to Lindy, and there's one that likes to sway. There's one that likes to lead, and crazy if you leave, but just as crazy if you stay.
Most of the time I feel like an adult.
I don't think there's really ever a point in your life in which you feel like an adult.
I want to say yes, but I'm still a little scared, so I'm going to still say no.
I think an adult is someone who is always learning and always growing and always figuring out more about who they are.
I think it's a goal to be an adult. Well, when I don't feel like an adult, it's when I can't cope emotionally with things and I behave in a way that's uncomfortable to other people.
I think that coming to college really was that step forward into adulthood.
Because I grew up during the women's movement, and the way I was brought up is very different than women are being brought up now.
I don't really think there is a rite of passage.
I don't necessarily think there needs to be a rite of passage to enter adulthood.
Well, I think that's a problem with our culture. I don't think we have rite of passage. It seems to be for most, like men, I have 2 sons, it would be like drinking. And with girls, it's different. It seems to be related to going on trips and, getting your driver's license, being responsible for money, but it doesn't happen soon enough. It should happen sooner.
Becoming employed at the age of 15, I had a job. Coming out as a lesbian was also a very adult experience for me. Finishing my college degree and purchasing a business, getting married. Those were all, I felt, kind of adult transitions.
Well, the comments I was making about rite of passage, I think they come from a book by Robert Bly called Iron John. And also, I think he wrote a book called Sibling Society, where we raise our children more like they're our siblings than where we feel like we have the authority as parents to direct them better. Because I was an old hippie, and it's hard to tell your kids not to smoke pot if you did it yourself.
Did I have a rite of passage? I would say yes. I've had a few.
I mean, yeah, I guess you could say I had a couple of rites of passage. Like definitely the first Highway Walkers trip was a rite of passage. And before that, going to college, and before that, even like getting my first car. These were all things that like opened the world up. Even my first bike, I was like 10 and my mom said I could go and ride to school on my own. And it was like the world just opened up. And so I think that's kind of what each rite of passage does for you. It opens your world up a little bit more.
And after every one, I think, okay, now I'm an adult. And then I'll have another one and I'll think, oh, now I had no idea before. Now I know what it's like to be an adult. And I anticipate to continually be having those throughout my life. And just when I think that I have it figured out, there's going to be something else that comes along and will show me that I had no idea what I was doing.
We traveled down to Durango, Colorado to speak with representatives from Animas Valley Institute, an organization that specializes in contemporary wilderness rites of passage.
Oh, the Animas Valley Institute was actually founded 30 years ago by Bill Plotkin, and he would argue that most people aren't actually adults in our society.
The work of Animas is incredibly countercultural, dangerous work. I've taken 3 programs since I've been there, including an Animas Quest. You go out into nature and you're there for 12 days, and then there's a 4-day fast that's incorporated into our quests. And of those 4 days, you go out solo and are completely alone.
With our smartphones and all of these distractions that we have in all kinds of forms, you can't actually listen to what's being said to you.
So if America were to go through one single rite of passage, it would be to unplug everything. Try it. Just try it for one day.
Would I consider myself an adult? Sometimes. We don't do initiation very good in our culture anymore. Pretty much it's gangs and fraternities. Maybe tribal cultures did this in stages as well. Maybe they had the luxury of time. Maybe the initiatory experience wasn't 48 hours over a weekend fitted in between, one set of meetings on Friday morning and the first set of meetings on Monday morning. not going to initiate ourselves in ones and twos and threes. It's going to take a larger community to do healthy initiation.
Being an adult is being fully holistically human and integrated. Really take seriously that deeper longing, that deeper sense of soul that is crying out to be heard.
We're heading over to what's called the Mile High Suspension Group here in Denver. They imitate this ritual that was started by the Mandan tribe. What they would do, their rite of passage for the young boys, is they would sit in a sweat lodge, and then the older men in the tribe would stick hooks through their skin, and then they'd have to hang from the ceiling of the hut until they passed out. And when they woke up, they would let them down, and they'd have to put their pinky on a block of wood, and they'd chop their pinky off. So this is just a group of people who practice this ancient rite of suspension by putting hooks through their skin and hanging.
They don't chop off their pinkies, though.
No, pinky's intact. So we're gonna go film them and see why this particularly painful rite of passage has survived for so long.
I am Chris Schaefer. I am a professional piercer and body modification artist and suspension artist. There's some people that, you know, they've had hooks in them once and they'll never go up again. There's other people that, you know, they'll put hooks in them once and they'll fly for life. But it's definitely not for everybody, and that's for damn sure.
We're not saying that suspension or pain in general should be the litmus test for adulthood. However, for the Mandan tribe, suspension was essential to their community, requiring the literal support of others. Do those who practice it today find that same support?
So why do you practice it?
For me, man, it just makes me feel more human. It makes me feel more connected with the universe. It makes me feel more like the person that I'm supposed to be. The moment that the hook gets ran through your body and you're just like, and your adrenaline starts running and everything just going through your head emotionally, spiritually, it can be hard to understand sometimes, and to connect with what you actually want to get out of it and like how you want to go about connecting on it, you know. Being confident within yourself that you'll actually be able to deal with the powers that'll be coming to you through it. It's just on how you adapt to the culture that you're around and which culture you actually want to go with. Especially when people could go out and they could express the way that they want to, and they could do the things that they want to do and find what truly makes them them. I think that's when it makes their rite of passage in America.
Can you try?
I can't. There's no other way to describe it. Like the moment you come back down or even just getting lifted off, you just feel so free.
Yeah, with about as adult as I can feel in this modern world, I guess you could say. I'm a productive member of society. I have a job, I don't cause trouble, I don't live off anybody. So I guess you could say by conventional means I'm an adult. Being able to take care of those around you and those, you know, your family, your friends, whether it's blood family or friend family.
We learned that a rite of passage isn't in the doing, but in the attitude. Clearly, the act of suspension itself is not the rite of passage. It's the initiation to the community that follows it. Ultimately, it's all about the community. In our modern world, we have the unique opportunity to choose communities that highlight qualities we believe in. Being an adult means positively contributing to your community. Rites of passage are out there and exist to bond people through initiatory experiences. We all need the support of others, people who will guide us and push us to be better, not just for ourselves, but for our friends, our family, our neighborhood and nation, and ultimately, our world.
If you look at a group of men engaged in a ritual, there's a real biology there. You can feel it. It's physical, physiological, psychological.
Having a supportive culture that says, hey, we're welcoming you as an adult and this is how it's going to be for you now.
So I think what you're seeing men create their own tribes in a way, like finding groups of guys that kind of embrace the same ideals as them and creating rites of passage. Seek out those initiatic experiences because they're out there.
You can't do it alone.
Just understanding that there isn't a right way. You know, we want there to be a right way because it's easier, I think, but there isn't a right way. And I always tell people to follow their passion, to do what feels right, and to do things that feed your soul.
It's just on how you adapt to the culture that you're around and which culture you actually want to go with, you know.
Yeah, the importance of having a group of people where that rite of passage means something to them, and they're going to treat you differently after that.
The initiatory process is a group process, and it has to incorporate a multifaceted group.
Reintegration, where you bring what you've had called from the mystery and you bring it to your people.
You know, your family, your friends, whether it's blood family or friend family.
But really take seriously that deeper longing, that deeper sense of soul that is crying out to be heard.
And I think the hardest part of anything is leaving the ground.
There's nothing wrong with you, you're not sick, you're actually alive, and you're coming alive.
Don't let anybody define what your success is. And I think sometimes success is seen as being an adult. I am an adult, and I'm very proud to be one.
And that's one of the important ideas of the rite of passage. You have like this reincorporation, right? So you go through the separation, the transition, and then you're reincorporated, and people treat you differently. And like you can't have that unless you go through a rite of passage that means something to a community.
We don't enter soulful adulthood merely by reaching a certain age, birthing or raising children, or accepting certain adult responsibilities. We must undergo an initiation process that does require letting go of the familiar and comfortable. Through ordeals and ecstasies, we come to know what we were born to do, what gift we were meant to bring into the world, what vision is ours to embody. For the land we belong to is grand, and the land we belong to is land, and when we say,
yeah. Hello, and welcome to Camping with Daryl and Josiah. We are currently in Ugalasha. Where are we? We are in the birthplace of William McKinley. Who? Bill Whitman? Who lived here? Who was born here?
Will Rogers.
Will Rogers. Okay.
Maybe being tortured by others.
Being tortured by others?
Yup.
You think that would make you feel like an adult?
Yep.
I understand that this promptness is courtesy of the highway walkers, and so you must treat them very seriously and go when they tell you to.